Good morning, brave people who stuck around till Friday. That's awesome. I think you all really, really care about customer identity as much as I do for just being here on Friday morning. We're all tired. But I won't ask who's tired or not. I'll ask who's overwhelmed by the amount of awesome ideas that were floating around the event. Yeah? Yeah, there we go. Quite a few, right? I've been coming to Identiverse since last 10 years, and I can tell you I usually have a big list of notes of things to research when I go back to my desk, things to talk about with my colleagues. I care about customer identity and access management. I'm experienced in that, and so I want to think about what else can we invest in, what else could we do, all the awesome things we're hearing. So hopefully, in this session, I can help you with a little bit of that. This is about the essential components of customer identity and access management strategy. Earlier, the great poet, Mr. Tucker Bryant, told us, distill the information to what's essential, what's important. So I'll give you 4 components in this session, which I think sometimes they're undermined and underestimated, the power. So I would suggest taking a step back and thinking through those components. Let's get the clicker going. Tech gods want me to take a break. Maybe I'll just do that. All right. I am Siddharth Thakur. That's my LinkedIn. If you're able to scan, some people were able to, some people were not. Feel free to connect with me. I have been in customer identity access management strategy and architecture role for many years now. I've been in the cybersecurity industry for a long time. I've done the customer identity access management work for many organizations with millions of customers in telecom, banking, and technology sectors. I really enjoy strategy work, and I hope you do too. So today, I'll give you, hopefully in 20 minutes, 5 minutes each, we'll cover these 4 components. I'll cover why are they essential? I'll cover what do they generally look like, and then what to avoid, what to watch out for. It's a short amount of time, it's a lot of content. I've got text highlighted, so if you don't read everything, draw your eyes towards the highlighted text and I touch on those. And if there's still more to talk about, I'm in the hallway so you can find me. Let's get started with the first one, vision and objectives. Why is this essential? Anybody been into executive meetings where they just complain saying, we need to do better at our customer identity, right? So what does that mean? Can you help elaborate? Can you help put it in words? The job of vision is to be able to put your aspirations into precise, concise, simple, easy to understand, really relatable language. It is putting words to those aspirations. We need to do better. What does that mean? That's why it's really important. It helps all the specialists express all their future state ideas, things that you hear here today or this entire week, into some specific ambitions and aspirations. It helps you collectively as a team get some North Star direction. We all should be marching towards that. That's your vision. I want to make sure we do something. In the next slide, I'll talk about what does that look like. And lastly, if done well, this is your brand. This is your brand of your customer identity access management strategy and your objectives. This is what you take everywhere to say, what are you doing in customer identity in any of these conferences? Say, you take this and say, that's what we are shooting for. Objectives. So those were aspirations, that's vision. Now you're getting more intentional. This is the time to be more specific. This is giving words to those intentions. Whenever you get ideas, like from the conference or somebody or a vendor or so on, you want to put some pitch together, and you want to align those project pitches to these objectives. If we are not pitching ideas that are not aligned with the objectives, either our objectives need a refresh, or the ideas are a little too far-fetched for now. Objectives tend to be short-term, compared to vision tends to be more longer term. That's more sustained because that is your brand. Again, remember that. That's something you talk about. That's what you want to be. Objectives also help you in the later on stages of your strategy measurement. This is a starting point to say, okay, I want to do something. How are you going to measure the success? What are some key metrics and results that you're going to drive out of your efforts to meet those objectives? And then as you start working on things, you're very likely to get distracted. You're very likely to get fresh, interesting things to do and pitches from people. Very periodically, it's important to go back and refocus. Are we still aligned to those objectives? So hopefully that helps. Why is it important? What do they look like? It's different for every organization. Sometimes you start customer identity. If you come from cybersecurity world, you want to secure customer access. Sometimes you want to work on improving the experience. Sometimes you notice in your entire organization the identity view of millions of your customers is extremely fragmented. So sometimes it's unification. So it could be different for every organization, but notice this is very aspirational type of language here. It's action-oriented. It's something that lives a little bit longer than your smaller initiatives. It is your brand. And these are just a few examples to think about. Objectives, what do they look like? Now we're going to start to get a little bit more precise. If our goal was to unify, if the vision was to unify multiple views identity, your objective may be correlate all the customer data across multiple systems from marketing to blah, blah, blah. Now we're starting to get more precise. Or if your goal is to provide better authentication, well, we're going to say, in order to achieve that vision, we're going to have to migrate our authentication services and solutions to modern platforms and technologies. Notice how now we're starting to get more precise and mission-oriented compared to the vision, which was aspirations and ideas. And so on. So these are some examples. It could be different for your organization. The important thing here is to spend time with your strategists. So who do you do this with is mainly your visionaries in the organization. Doesn't matter where they sit, it's important. Doesn't matter what level or role they're at, listen to everybody. Spend a lot of time doing this because otherwise some people are going to feel excluded. Some people are going to not align. Some people are not going to support your efforts. And some people are not going to support and celebrate your successes. You really need that in a large, multi-million customer identity efforts with so many diverse stakeholders and goals to enable the business. And remember, we're not just cybersecurity or identity people. Now we are the business enablers for various lines of business, for various customer-facing products. We're also the people who are improving the experience for millions of customers, hopefully. So every little thing here is going to take some time, and I strongly suggest don't undermine these things we're going to talk about today. What to watch out for? I touched on this a little bit. Exclusivity. It doesn't have to be one leader, one person's aspirations. It has to be something that everybody agrees and aligns to. It has to be, watch out for being short-sighted. This has to be more longer term. It's not something that what we're going to do in the next 3 months. It is something that what do we aspire to be when we grow up, right? Fluctuations. Vision, hopefully, because it is your brand, you don't change it too much. There are going to be times where you might have to reassess that, but please avoid, as much as possible, to shifting your vision, because that just suddenly steers everybody on that ship to this new direction because everybody was so invested in working on certain things, and now, oh, that's not our priority. Our priority is now to mitigate fraud, but we were investing so much in better UXs. No, now we're going to focus on fraud. Forget about UXs. So there might be times when you need to do that, but be very judicious about when do you need to do that. For objectives, watch out for cookie-cutter objectives. Professional services firms like mine and many others, and vendors, and everybody will give you, this is what you should do. Or this is what company X does. Does it matter to you? Does it help you? Is it aligned with your goals and aspirations? Assess that, so don't take cookie-cutter ones. And also watch out for staleness. Is this something we are still aiming for, or have our goals changed? You need to keep refreshing this, or at least reassessing or rethinking these. Imbalance. Sometimes some intentions may dominate. There are times when large customer breaches happen and suddenly customer security, fraud mitigation is important. Those are important objectives. But you don't want your entire program to just be biased towards certain stakeholders or certain teams, unless everybody agrees. Again, the theme here is collaboration and involvement and inclusivity rather than one team or one leader or one line of business kind of dictating the whole program. And you'll see, if you worked in customer identity, you know how successful you can be if you actually include everybody. Let's switch a little bit to slightly more technical. This is another thing that I noticed that you might see everywhere in the industry, from standards bodies to vendors to consulting or SI partners that you might be working with. A lot of technical jargon in customer identity access management space, not just security people, not just identity people, but from marketing, from ad tech, from customer data management. It is helpful to establish a technical capability framework, a structure of thinking, a couple of building blocks that you can always look up to, regardless of where you are in the journey, to say, you know what, our customer identity access management focuses on this technical capability set. And this helps a lot later on because it gives structure to those amorphous ideas, things that you wrote down as those aspirations and objectives. Let's get technical now. When we say we want to improve our login experience, well, what do we need to do for that? What does that mean in terms of technical capability? Is it MFA? Is it passwordless? Is it authentication orchestration journeys for different app groups and user cohorts? What exactly is that? So now you're starting to get technical and define the boxes around those technical capabilities and define what's within those boxes. So now these become your functional focus areas. You might want to say, okay, this is my authentication team. What does that mean? They will focus on building, developing, operating, serving authentication services within this framework. Like I said, the terminology is extremely important. I'm sure you all have seen this. Somebody says, all right, I'll give you identity validation as an idea. Identity validation versus verification versus proofing means different things to different people still. And you will have those conversations. This is the right time and right place in this framework to have those conversations. Let's define, when you say validation, you actually don't mean going back to the issuing authority to validate the authenticator or to the identity assertion document. When you say proofing, you actually mean we're going to call APIs from AMVI to verify the driver's license. You know, things of that nature. Define those technical capabilities, what we actually mean when we say collectively, when we use this term, and then start using those words. When somebody says verification, when they mean validation, feel free to respectfully correct them. This is our framework. We are calling this functionality that you're referring to that. And now all of a sudden everybody, business, product, engineering, technical people, cyber people, fraud folks, everybody's talking the same language. And now your projects are going to be much more seamless or smoother because there's not that misunderstanding of your, what are we building again? So what do these look like? On the left, you'll see this often, block diagram, kind of entity relationship type of diagram. This is just an example, but you could have interconnected components of technical capabilities where things connect to each other in a way that it makes sense to your technical architects. Again, your solution architects, your technical architects, or people with that type of mindset are the best people to build this for you. It can be inspired by frameworks and standards. It can be inspired by vendors, structures, and architecture, but this is very tech agnostic. This is very functional building blocks like. The one on the right is a pyramid. You know, a lot of folks like that we need this as a foundational capability. When you hear those type of things, you want to start thinking a pyramid type of structure. These are just visual examples. Again, I'm very visual. This helped a lot in terms of taking this visual across the board. And I'll tell you my favorite, and I'll tell you why in the next slide. My favorite is not a complicated entity relationship block diagram, not a pyramid, because, well, all right, I'll get to that in a second. The circle, or something that is centered around something, or something that has given every capability area equal importance, because remember, we're still not in prioritization. We're still thinking holistically our universe of technical capabilities needs to cover A, B, C, D. Let's group them into these boxes and put a framework area around it and define capabilities within that. The reason I like the middle one is it does not convey an order or priority or importance. That may be important for your organization. In your efforts, in your program, if your leaders in the vision and objective stage say that we gotta have this as a foundational thing. We should not do anything else up above in the chart until we've completed initiatives in the foundation layer. In that case, the pyramid type of structure, bottom up, would be a great one to visually communicate your framework. There might be extremely technical people that actually might prefer the one on the left because this is how system design documents look like sometimes. But those are really hard. On the left, I find it's really hard to talk or walk some technical or non-technical person through it. If you're in front of a chief customer officer, chief revenue officer to say, this is how our customer experience through better login has improved customer abandonment metrics. Sure, tell me the technical parts of it. How did you do that? Well, if you go with the left, you're going to lose visually where we are in the chart and how are these things interconnected. And this is just a small example for the sake of the slide. These tend to be extremely complicated. You're going to zoom in and zoom out and lose them right away. The circle is, I like it because you can put things in the center. I've not done that here, but what matters to you? What should be the central anchor point for all of our thinking? Is it customers? Is it our brand? Is it our reputation? Put that icon or visually in the center and build your technical capabilities around it. That's a great brand sort of one-pager to take everywhere when you're talking about your customer ID access management. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on to what to watch out for when you do this. I kind of talked a little bit about flatness. Please group things into some logical capabilities that you all agree. Please don't throw keywords at business folks, especially. Authentication, MFA, we're also doing orchestration, we're also doing, it's just too much. Group them. All of these are, generally speaking, identity validation capabilities. So define a capability group, then somebody might say, okay, what's within that? All right, I'm gonna double click here, bear with me, I'm gonna zoom in and then talk a little bit more. I'm gonna zoom out again, this is my framework again. So watch out for flatness. Watch out for blurriness. Things may overlap and things tend to, this is the part about definition. When I'm saying validation, I mean validation, not verification. They might overlap. Well, let's consider merging into one capability area called identity resolution or something like that we all agree. Very important to keep the boundaries separate, and you'll see in the next section why. Complexity, like I touched on that, little ER diagrams are extremely complex to walk anybody through. Order, we talked on the visual order. If you choose to use some visual that conveys a structure priority, you might actually alienate some stakeholders who don't think that foundational thing is actually important for them. Circle's nice. Everybody's here together at the table at the same time. We are all equal players and participants. And then tech agnostic, please. Vendors change all the time. Vendors also reinvent their own product approach and strategies all the time. If your program strategy is too tied to a particular vendor, please be cautious about that. But make sure you are comfortable that your tech agnostic framework also aligns with vendor architecture. Now let's get into a little bit of planning. So we defined our aspirations. We structured our thinking, the whole universe of possibilities in a framework. Time to put a plan together, but is this a project plan yet? Not yet. This is the roadmap. This is your journey of foreseeable future of the set of efforts that you're going to define to mature those capabilities from that framework slide earlier that we talked about. So I had a grouping of authentication capabilities for our customers in our retail, customer experience flows. How are we going to do that in a step-by-step incremental capability maturation journey? This is also, so far, it's not a project plan yet. It could be. Project plans tends to be start to get more technical or more well-defined compared to these initiative roadmaps. Initiative roadmaps are purely defined to showcase to the stakeholders that we have a plan of a journey where all of us are going to be equally invested and supportive to get to this end goal that we talked about in the vision and objectives. And this is also where you can exemplify or demonstrate your promise that you are going to provide continuous value to your customers. This is something that you can also use for garnering support from your stakeholders. Look, we have not forgotten about you and your priorities. We have something in the plan, in the roadmap to tackle what your pain points are. Because remember, hopefully, earlier when you defined the vision objectives, you talked to a lot of stakeholders. You took your time to listen to everybody. It's not one team dominated. Full picture is always helpful to everybody to see, yes, I shouldn't be impatient, I'm going to wait for it. We have also thought out well-scoped work boundaries or work efforts in a progressive journey. This is something you can take to sponsor efforts too. Look, hey, fraud team, I know you care a lot about the trustworthiness of identities. We have a block here coming up in the next 6 months. what about, let's figure out a way to fund or co-fund, because that's something you care about a lot too, and we do too in our program. The last bullet here is about shifting focus. So your initiative roadmap might change. This is something you have a full ability, as long as it aligns with the vision, objectives, and the technical capability framework that we talked about. You can change this. Just make sure everybody agrees that, hey, we are just going to sort of throttle down a little bit on the identity pieces, but MFA seems to be a pain point for our customers, so we're going to switch focus. You'll see a lot more initiatives on our roadmap this year about authentication experience, for example. So really use this as an opportunity to shift focus if your challenges also change. And that you can only do, by the way, if you're measuring how our customers are doing, how our services are doing. Roadmap, what might these look like? All right, so the swim lanes here, don't worry about all the chevrons and examples in there. These are just examples. But the thinking behind this is the swim lanes, if you recall, came from the capability framework. So we had those areas defined in the pyramid, for example, if you chose the pyramid. There was a life cycle capability area, there was a access control, there was a risk and fraud capability at the top of the pyramid. Same three things, please be mindful of the language. Those same keywords you're going to use now and say, look, this is how we're going to invest and mature that capability area. Your time boundaries are the columns. You could, in this example, I just used 3 years. I don't think anybody can see past 18 months these days, or maybe 12 months. So depends on your organization, depends on how frequently you want to do this. This is a sort of a list of initiatives. And again, when you define the pitch for the initiatives, make sure you have a pitch document that talks about why is this important, what is it going to look like, what benefit it provides. For every little chevron that you define here, have a project charter type of one-pager that you can take to stakeholders to sometimes ask for money and say, look, this is how much it's going to cost, this is what it's going to provide to you or us collectively, and it aligns with the strategy. I'm being told I'm short of time, so I'm going to quickly cover some of these. Let's talk about analysis paralysis here. Just start with something. Everybody's going to have their own priorities when you're doing this collaboratively. Watch out for what's the burning problem. And then don't think too much here. Initiative roadmaps can change, and funding we should be able to have enough support from stakeholders to shift the funding around to accomplish the current and present goals or challenges. And also, if you do manage to secure funding for those initiatives, get some commitments from delivery teams. They are always overwhelmed. You want to make sure you actually can define and achieve those success criteria that you find. Blind spots and opportunities. As you find things you need to move or you've ignored so much, please reassess this frequently and talk to your stakeholders. I went to get money for this, but we're going to have to change the focus a little bit. All right, the last one's a fun one because this is something people forget. There is a big misnomer about strategists or misunderstanding that you guys just define a strategy and leave. No, please stay engaged throughout the success of the journey. Your strategist role is not done after the strategy is built. You are there as a subject matter expert because you envision this with them. You help them define the future, so stick around. And how do you do that? You are going to help define some strategic services to aid all the stakeholders in your customer identity program to achieve the goals. You provide those supporting constructs. You provide a strategy team as a fully invested stakeholder in their success. You help define some metrics to help them measure how they are doing. You standardize approaches. As people start doing things, they're going to try to find their own ways of doing, achieving the same objectives and vision. There is going to be a need for standardization. That's where you come in and say, when I say validation of identity, I meant aligning to NIST 863 IL levels, for example. You're also going to help orchestrate a lot of stakeholders, people with diverse points of view and priorities. You are now their strategist and architect as well, and a support person along the way. What does this look like? These strategic services includes things that you could define for standards and policies. I think most of the organizations do not do enough to define a customer identity access management standard or policy. Most of the time, you start digging into language, it's going to be focused towards workforce, because auditors love that for compliance. So customer identity standards, policies don't exist. Product folks and engineering folks who are actually working on initiatives need something to look up to and say, okay, when you said I can't use fingerprints, it's in our standard. I'm still going to try it? No, I can't because it's not aligned with the policy, and so on. Target results and metrics. Again, like I talked about in the objectives, now you're going to get an ability to help the team define the metrics. These might look different for every effort and initiative. I threw some examples in there. You also happen to have a lot of understanding of, because you listen to everybody at the beginning of the strategy, you will have a great view into what the customer experience flows look like across your entire product space or services space or your channels. So help them by organizing a content library that showcases everything you've seen in these customer journey flows. You're also going to be on call sometimes, automated or consultation services on demand, where people can come to you and say, hey, should I be doing this? My line of business said, we're going to build a mobile app for better experience. Should I do that for, it's going to target these many customers. So you are that advisor. And then, like I said, you're the connector for all the people because you worked with everybody, you listen to everybody, and you define the program together, architecture together. And you also are the ones, because you help them put together a pitch artifact for every initiative, hopefully. You're also the ones who are able to help them market all of these efforts and successes internally as well as externally. So those are the four. I think we touched on some of the ideas here, what to watch out for, anti-patterns and bias. Your services are going to be biased sometimes, but please include everybody. And watch out for deviations to those ideas. And please seek feedback from all the customers. Are we on the right track? Going to the metrics and those aspects of measurement. Are we oblivious to something that we should be caring about along the way? Again, hopefully this is helpful. These are four. To recap, vision objectives will define your aspirations. Capability framework will structure your ideas. Your initiative roadmaps will drive towards the progress. Your strategic services will guide your behaviors. This is not just somebody, just reach out to us if you need anything. You're going to guide everybody's behaviors towards that program success. That's all I have. If there are any questions, I'll take it. Again, tiny little LinkedIn QR code, but I'm here, so please reach out. If there are any questions, let me know. Thank you.